All right. Good afternoon, everybody. If you can't hear me, go ahead and let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and continue as if you can hear me. So just going to go over some quick ground rules real quick. So I'm only going to be answering questions that are asked during the office hours. So if you got questions, go ahead and start asking them now, and we'll get them answered here. I noticed that there were a few posts on here, which I'll answer those just because I think that's just good information for anybody that's on here. But again, if you have a question, make sure that you ask it during the office hours in order for it to get answered. And this isn't because I don't want to answer everyone's questions. It's just because I want to answer questions for those who are here live to see it get answered. And also, if you have a question, you can't stick around to see the answer. Go ahead and just, ask it in the beginning. And if you got to go take off, then you can watch the archived office hours later, which I'll go into. Kenneth here a while ago had a question about that, so I'll go ahead and talk about that. And then also, if you ask a question that is going to be easily answered or remedied by a video or a course on the website, I'm going to shoot you in that direction. I'm going to say, hey, go watch this video, or go watch the videos in this course, or go through the drills in this course. That's what's really going to help you the most. So an example of a question like that would be, how do I fix my slice? Well, we have a slice course on the website, Never Slice Again, that you can go through and work through all the drills and fix your slice. So I'm just going to shoot you in that direction. Instead of going into 10 minutes or so about how to fix your slice, you're going to get a lot more out of the video series than what I can do in my office here. And then lastly, I wanted to mention that I am coming at you live from my home. I do have a dog. I do have a wife that is a teacher that is now home, so she's in and out of the house, and the dog might bark and stuff like that. So bear with me while that's going on. There's odds are she might bark at some point during these office hours. She's actually been doing really good, not barking and stuff. So hopefully it stays that way, and I won't have to go on mute ever. But real quick here. Kenneth asked, how do you watch the previous office hours? The office hours are being archived now. I usually try to archive them shortly after I'm done. I actually have a tea time today at 4:30 or so, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to archive it right after today. I gotta get out the door into my tea time here pretty quick, so probably won't get tonight's archived until today's archived until later tonight. But if you go to the office hours, so if you go to the top of the page and hover your mouse over office hours, it'll expand a menu. And if you go to the office hours highlights page, if you scroll down on that page, you'll see the archived office hours. Pretty much all of them are on there. Again, we've had some days that have been skipped and things like that due to internet issues or holidays or things like that. So yeah, if you want to look at an old one, or you asked a question in the beginning and you had to take off and you wanted to see the answer to your question, you can go back and watch the office hours from that day and see that question get answered. So, and then Colin T was on here. He mentioned no sound, no video. It looks like he got on here before the office hours started. So make sure you're looking at the schedule and seeing when the office hour session is, because in between those times, when the office hours aren't going on, there's not going to be any sound or any video there. So that's probably what Colin was seeing there. So let's go ahead and start here with James S. James S says, several times lately on the course, when teeing off, I hit a high ball. I'm pretty sure I'm hitting the ball with the top of the club, and I think this is due with the second part of the move. This has not happened at the driving range. Any thoughts on why? So a couple things that could be going on. One, you may be teeing the ball just way too high. So typically you want about half of the ball above the crown of the club, maybe a little bit more than that if you really hit up on it. But somewhere in there is good. If you have it teed up, like it's on a Coke bottle or something like that, you're going to tend to, your margin for error is pretty small, and you may tend to hit a lot of high strikes. It sounds like you're hitting the ball high on the face. So if you start hitting the ball too high on the face, a lot of what golf is just adjusting your field to get the desired result that you want. Try to hit it on the lower part of the face. That doesn't mean that you're actually going to hit it on the lower part of the face. It just means that you're adjusting your feel to where you're hitting it more in the center of the face. So that'd be the first thing I would do. The next thing I would look at is look at your compression line. So when we talk about your compression line, that's going to be the line that goes up from your ankle to your hip to your shoulder. And with a driver, you want that to be angled away from the target. Really with all clubs, but with a driver, it can be a little bit more angled away because you're hitting up on the ball. So we say a couple degrees angled away typically, but I've seen tour players that are 5-10 degrees angled away with that compression line. That's completely fine as long as you're getting to your lead side and you're allowing yourself to swing up on the golf ball as you're coming through there. But if you're in this kind of area where you're vertical with your compression line and maybe even leaning toward the target, that's going to be kind of chopping down into the golf ball, and that's going to be where you may get some of those high strikes on the face. So I'd be looking at that, look at your swing on camera, and see what's going on there. But that's really the number one thing that I see with people who tend to pop it up. It's either they're teeing the ball up too high and they're just getting underneath of it, or the other thing is that compression line's leaning forward and they're chopping down into it, and they're getting that high strike up on the face instead of hitting up on the ball and getting that strike more in the center of the face. So I'd be looking at that on camera to see what's going on there and working on your compression line to be a little bit more angled away. All right, next question here. All right, so James Q says, I tried this message Monday, but it was miswritten. I get my very best contact when I aim at the top of the ball with the toe of the club. Is this a problem? Please explain. Doesn't sound like it's a problem. Sounds like you're getting your best contact when you do that. So I would continue to do that. I mean, I don't see if you're getting good results with what you're doing, what am I to say that's a problem? If you were to line up on the center of the face and hit the ball like garbage, then that is a problem. That's what really matters the most, is what's going on at impact. So if you line up a certain way and you hit the ball the best in that way, then continue to do that. The only thing I don't like is when people, they typically line up the ball. So let's say you're someone who always lines the ball up on the center of the face. That's typically what you do. That's what most people do. But then you started hitting the ball out on the toe. So once you started hitting the ball on the toe, then you decided, well, I'm going to line the ball up on the heel. Well, that usually doesn't help. It may help you like immediately, like right then and there. But over time, you're going to adapt, and you're also going to start feeling like subconsciously like you have to bring the club in because you're lining up on the hosel. You subconsciously feel like, well, if I swing that same, if I swing and hit it right where the ball is lined up, then I'm going to hit it right off the hosel. So subconsciously, you kind of swing more like that, which just makes it go off the toe even more. So what I recommend doing is if you're lining it up on the center, that's where you're comfortable lining it up, and you start hitting it off the toe, continue to line it up the way that you're used to and comfortable lining up, but intentionally try to strike it off the heel to get that strike to move closer to the center. If you hit it off the heel, then just ease off that feeling. If you still hit it off the toe, then exaggerate that feeling even more until you get that strike closer to the center of the face. So if you're doing something and you're hitting the ball great, then there's no problem there. There's nothing really to explain, to be honest. So hopefully that makes sense. I may not be the answer that you're looking for, but hey, if you're hitting the ball great, then who am I to say that you're doing something wrong? That's really what matters the most, is just getting good, solid impact. All right. Good sound. Thanks, James. So Heather S. says, driver speed is now up to 88 miles per hour. It started at 81 miles per hour. That's awesome. That's a great gain. Thanks for the great coaching to help me improve the lag in my swing. Needless to say, I'm hitting everything farther. Oh, so this Heather is a swing review student of mine. Thank you so much for writing that in there. Yeah, so I do have an unlimited swing review program. I worked on doing a little bit of speed training with Heather. She's casting the club a little bit, and she worked on her lag, and it sounds like she's gotten up to she canceled her swing reviews because she wanted to go work on what we talked about for a while. She just didn't have enough time to practice as much as she wanted to. So she took the time and went out and worked really, really hard. So awesome job, Heather, on gaining 7 miles per hour. That's 20 plus yards. That's like 20, 25 yards of distance there. So awesome job working on that. Hopefully it's translating to your game and making everything a little bit easier for you. So awesome job for Heather. If you're interested in my swing review program, you just go to the Get a Review page toward the top of the page there. And it brings you to the page where it gives you all the information, kind of, helps you understand exactly what it is. If you have any questions about the LNS swing reviews, feel free to ask them on here. I've been doing them for several years, given thousands of lessons on there. Know a lot about it. So if you have any questions about it, feel free to ask, and I'll be happy with any questions you have. So I've got the next question here. Guys, keep bringing the questions here. We got, you got 50 more minutes with me. I just got one question on here. So if you got questions, throw them at me, and I'll do my best to answer them here. So we'll go ahead and go to Ed's. My question relates to Clay's former system, rotary swing. That system emphasizes moving the body and actually discourages hitting balls in favor of mirror and video work while perfecting the movements. Why do you think Todd Sweet Golf is a better way to learn to be a good player? And do you and Clay feel mirror work can be overdone? I know there are other differences, but I'm very curious. So basically the biggest difference between top speed golf and rotary swing is that rotary swing is really focused on perfect positions and every little, like having the perfect takeaway. I'm not familiar with what rotary swing does, but this is just kind of the way that Clay and other team members explained it to me. Is essentially they're really focused on getting that perfect takeaway. When you look on tour and you see all kinds of different takeaways, they emphasize having that. You have to have that perfect takeaway, that club in that perfect spot in this position right here for everything to be in place in the downswing. And I don't subscribe to that. I don't believe in that. If you look on tour, the proof is right there. You're going to see a lot of different takeaways in the golf swing. You're going to see J.B. Holmes. He brings that club way inside like this and brings it up like this and shallows it out. You're going to see Jim Furyk. He does all kinds of crazy things with the swing. You're going to see, you're going to see all kinds of different takeaways on tour. But what you see that's the same with every single player on tour are the 5 pieces of the Todd Sweet Golf system. So basically, if you're thinking about the things that matter the most in the golf swing, that's what the Todd Sweet Golf system is. We really focus on the technique pieces that matter the most. So having a stable spine, you're going to look at every tour player, and you're going to see that they have a stable spine throughout the swing, and that they're angled away that 18 to 25 degrees at impact when you're looking from face on. You're going to see every single tour player has a good shoulder turn. Some have more than others, but average shoulder turn on tour is 118 degrees. You're going to see some players that are like 90, 95 degrees, and you're going to see some that have 130 some degree turn. But the average is about 118. We like to see 90. At least 90. I've never seen anyone who's not capable of getting a 90-degree turn just by making some adjustments. You're also going to see every tour player has some amount of lag. Again, players have more than others, but you're going to see every player has lag in the swing. There's not a single tour player that's casting the club, not a single one. You're also going to see the compression line. You're going to see all those pretty much lined up and angled away from the target. You're not going to see any tour players with their hips bumped way out like this. And then the straight line release. All tour players are releasing that club out in front and getting forward shaft lean. You're not going to see any tour players that are flipping the club and releasing it early. So these are the things that matter the most in the swing. You add the move in there. I would say that's the 6th piece, getting that club to shallow out. Again, you're not seeing any tour players there coming down steep in the swing and flipping the club through impact. So basically, those are the pieces that matter the most. I do absolutely agree that working on technique, you can do that too much. Technique is what puts you in the position to hit the ball well, but you can have absolutely perfect technique and hit the ball terrible. And that's where our ball striking masterclass comes in. The ball striking masterclass focuses on really the most important thing in golf, which is impact. You can have terrible technique, but if you hit the ball in the center of the club face with a square club face with a club path that's fairly neutral, not too much into out or out to in, but fairly neutral as you're coming into the ball. And if you get that ball first contact, you don't hit the ground behind the golf ball, you're going to hit a solid golf shot, no matter what your technique is. Your technique is what allows you to be in that position more consistently. But how many people have you gone out there and played with that has a terrible golf swing? It just looks all funky, but man, they put that club on the golf ball and they hit solid golf shots, and they are, scratch golfers or whatever. There's all kinds of players like that. I played with a lot of guys in college that are like that. I don't have a perfect swing. I would put myself into that category where I don't do a lot of great things in my swing, but I actually have a very good sense of impact because I've just hit so many golf shots and practiced so much in my life. And I tell you what, when I don't play very often, my game deteriorates a lot. Whereas if you get somebody who has very, very good technique and, they just don't have to practice as much typically, and they should only be mainly practicing on impact type drills. So basically, that's what it comes down to is impact is the most important thing. And, whatever you do with your technique, it has to improve that. And you can overdo working on technique and things like that, because I've seen people who have really, really great technique, but have no sense or awareness of impact. And, they struggle a little bit. I actually have a student right now. I won't name him, but I have a student right now that he's a 100 shooter, 100 and 120, 110. He actually has very, very good technique. But he just doesn't have a really great awareness of impact and how to control the club as it's coming through the ball. He does the things in the Top Speed Golf system pretty well. I mean, everything that he's doing, you could look at. He's got a stable spine. He's got a big shoulder turn. Everything that he's doing as far as technique-wise is in the realm of acceptability. But at impact, he's not hitting it in the center of the face. He's mishitting a lot of the shots. He's swinging from in to out too much. And it's very, very hard to control the golf ball and have very good impact when you do that. He hits a lot of chunk shots. He doesn't have a very good awareness of the ground. So that's basically what I'm trying to get him to work on right now, is saying, hey, it's not a technical thing that you're doing. Technique looks pretty good. We really need to work on that awareness of impact. And that's what our ball striking masterclass is. That really focuses on that. If you're interested in doing our ball striking masterclass, it is an additional program. We are going to be offering it. Be on the lookout in your email next week. We're going to be sending out a campaign to a lot of people who basically it just tells a little bit of story about how Josh kind of had his own battle and he really worked on his technique and basically perfected his technique, but still wasn't playing very well. And basically talked about that and how he started working on this ball striking type stuff, and it really, really helped his game a lot. Because it can be very demoralizing to work on your technique so much and put so much work into it, but not to improve at all. And I think that's a lot of times what happens with people when they get too caught up into things like that, when you really just need to work on your technique. Regardless of where your technique is at, the ball striking masterclass is something that will improve your game. If you go through the drills and you do them, it will improve your game. And if it doesn't, we'll give you your money back. So be on the lookout in your email next week. I think we're going to start opening enrollment for it. I can't remember when the email goes out that where you can actually sign up. But it will be toward the end of next week. I think it's on Thursday that you'll get the email with the announcement that we're opening up enrollment. So I can only take so many spots in there. The group, it does include a Facebook group access, a private Facebook group where you can post your results and ask me questions. And you can post your swings on there, and I can take a look at your swing and tell you some things about your technique that can make you struggle a little bit with the pieces of the ball striking masterclass, what we call the big four in there. So That's why I can only take a limited number of spots. So be on the lookout in your email if you're interested in that. It's $147 for the program. It's a one-time payment. You get access to the program, all the videos in the program for as long as you have your all access membership. It's a 90-day thing. Takes about 3 or 4 hours a week to keep up with it. You can combine range sessions. If you don't have a lot of time to work on stuff, you can combine range sessions, or you can just go at your own pace. But the access to the Facebook group, the private Facebook group, it's about 90 days. So keep that in mind if you decide to join up. If there's any questions about the ball striking masterclass, feel free to post them on here. I'll be happy to answer any questions on that. So Ed, I hope I answered your question. Kind of went off on a tangent there, but hopefully that all makes sense to you. So William R says, I can't stop casting. I guess I'm very frustrated with consistently hitting thin. I'll try anything to help. So William says, I guess he can't stop casting. So that kind of leads me to believe that he doesn't know. Well, if that's the case, I'm not really sure exactly why you wouldn't know if you're casting or not. So basically, if you're not really sure what casting is, basically what casting is, you're releasing this club from the top. So if you look at this angle between your lead arm and the shaft, that angle is getting bigger from the top of the swing. So from the very top of the backswing to the start, it's already getting bigger. What you're going to see with tour players and people who are doing lag correctly, our top speed lag section, is you're actually going to see this angle at the top, and you're actually going to see it either maintained or you're going to see it getting sharper. Ideally, you'd see that getting sharper. You're generating lag as you're shallowing out this club, and as the momentum of the club is still going that way, you are generating some lag and you're sharpening up this angle. And then from there, you start to release the club. So if you are casting the club, you're going to want to go to our top speed lag section and work through the drills there. There's tons of videos on the website that also supplement the top speed lag section. So you can do that by searching. You can search the word lag on the website, or you can even search casting on the website. There's a great search engine on the website. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, there's a search window there. It says search this website. If you click in there and put in any keyword, let's say you're looking for videos on lag, you can find them there. If you're looking for videos on chunking, you can put in chunking or hitting behind the ball, any kind of keyword or phrase, and you should be able to find. It works pretty well in general. I've found that I've searched for a lot of videos on the website, and I usually find what I'm looking for when I use that. So use that, take advantage of that. It works really, really well. There's also our vault section. If you go to, we have a lag category in the vault. So if you go to the instruction tab, let it expand. There are vault categories there. And if you click on that, you can go to the lag section and see tons of videos in there as well that supplement that. But working through the drills in our top speed lag course is really going to help you to get rid of that casting issue. And to get to the courses, click the home icon, the house icon at the top of the screen. That'll take you to the home page. You scroll down, you will see the top speed lag course there. And you can see your progress with the other courses as well. All right, so let me get a drink here real quick. So James Hughes says, on the range, I have tried taking a practice swing and stopping at the ball with my impact position, and then taking the swing and hitting from there. Seems to work well. What is the downside of this? I never see anyone else doing this. So you're saying at the range, you try taking a practice swing and stopping at the ball with my impact position, and then taking the swing and hitting from there. I don't see any issue with that. So it sounds like what you're doing, if I can just kind of illustrate what I feel like what you're saying here. Let me grab a different club. So it sounds like you're basically doing this, where you're going up to the top, and then you're coming down and you're pausing and your impact position, and then you're just taking the club and swinging from there. I mean, I don't see any issue with that. If that's helping you hit the ball better, then that's kind of like that question that we had earlier, where someone was talking about how they lined up and they felt like they were hitting the top of the ball, and they got great results when they do that. I mean, if you're getting fantastic results, that doesn't mean that's the reality of what's going on. I mean, if you're intentionally trying to hit the top of the golf ball, let me angle this down. So if you're coming in and you're actually trying to hit the top of the golf ball, if you did that in reality, that wouldn't be good. Like, you'd be topping the ball, right? You would have to do that to make that happen. But if you are trying to hit the top of the golf ball, but the reality is you're coming in and hitting it really, really solid, then that's what you should be doing. Then that's good. So if you're taking your maybe your pre-shot is that you're coming in and you're coming down and pausing at impact, you're getting in that good impact position, and then you're starting the swing from there, and it's giving you great results, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If that's helping you hit the ball better, then, more power to you. You know what I mean? So I don't see any downside to it. I think it'd be good. The only problem, okay, so let me talk about one downside of it. So if you're in your impact position, okay, you're in your impact position, your hips are going to be open, right? Your hands are going to be forward, your body is going to be opened up. So to start the backswing from here, there's a lot more movement that's got to happen. You've got to really turn your hips quite a bit and things of that. So that can cause some issues, but as long as you're getting a big turn, you're turning your hips and getting your shoulders to turn the way that they need to, and you're getting that proper weight shift and everything else, then absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that. You're getting great results from that, then then there's no reason why you can't do that. William R. says, never mind, I think you covered it. All right, so good. I think I answered your question anyway. So Thomas C. says, my swing with driver and fairway woods has complete finish, but my iron finish does not ride completely around. My irons usually finish with the club high over my shoulder. How can I train myself to complete my iron swing behind my shoulder? So again, you got to think about what's happening at impact. How is that affecting my impact? Is my impact bad with my irons because I'm not finishing up over my shoulder? Odds are it's probably not, but it can hurt your speed. If you're not coming through all the way through around into a full finish, then you may not be getting the speed that you're wanting to get with your irons. But I will say the number one thing that I see with people who don't finish their swing is that they keep this heel planted on the ground, this trail heel. So they're coming into impact and their legs are just kind of flat on the ground like this. And then the arms kind of race out in front. And then the momentum of the arms kind of bring their body around. What you want to feel in the swing is that your lower body is kind of leading the way and your hips are coming into impact and you're getting this impact position right here. See how my heel is kind of coming off the ground here as I'm coming into impact? So you can see from this angle, as I'm coming in, you can see my heel is coming off the ground here. And that's allowing my lower body to get opening up. And that allows the momentum of everything to come around. So I would look on camera and look at your right heel or your trail heel. I don't know if you're left-handed, but I look at your trail heel and see if that's coming off the ground as you're coming into impact. It should be, 2 or 3 inches coming off the ground. That's what you're going to see with tour players. If you keep that on the ground, that acts as an anchor for your hips. I can't rotate my hips very much if my heel is on the ground. I lift that heel up. Now I can rotate my hips and come all the way around into a full finish. So that's what I'd be looking at. That's the number one thing. But again, maybe you are doing that. It could be something else that's going on. It's really impossible for me to know without seeing your swing, but I can tell you that's the number one thing I see. Look at your swing on camera. See what's going on camera. Look at that trail heel. See if you're keeping it on the ground. And if it is, then you can do some drills where you're coming down to impact and really focusing on getting the hips to open up and feeling like that heel is coming off the ground and then coming all the way through around to the full finish. Loosen up that heel and allow it to come all the way around to the full finish. You can do some slow practice swings doing that, and then try to add the golf ball and do it. All right, so Sharon T says, thank you. My game has been improving well. One area I'm struggling with is feet position during chipping to line up the club with the hole. Please help. So basically, what I do for chipping is I basically just kind of get behind the golf ball. So what I'll do, I'm not sure if you can see. No, you probably can't. So let me use a pen. Here we go. So if I have this pen here, I'm aiming at a target in front. Let's say, here's my target right here. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah. Okay. So here's my target right here in front. So I get behind and I'm lining up my chip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a spot in front of my ball, maybe a foot or two in front of my golf ball, that's right in between my golf ball and my target, or basically the line that I want this to start on. So if it's breaking to the left or it's breaking to the right, I may want to start it in to be able to take the break and go toward the hole. Well, let's just assume this one's dead straight. So I'm looking at this, I'm lining it up, I'm getting behind it. And ideally, out on the course, you're going to be, this is a very small scale, what I'm showing you. So you're going to be standing much further, 10 feet probably behind the golf ball, lining this up, 10 feet or so. And then I'm going to come up and I'm going to line up my face with that target. So instead of kind of looking way out to where the target is, all I have to do is line up my face to that right there. And now I can kind of open up my body to it and see exactly that I'm lined up correctly. And now all I'm thinking about is I'm lined up correctly now. Now all I have to do is just get the right distance control. So now I just swing the club to focus on getting some good contact and get some good distance control. So now all I'm thinking about, okay, where am I going to land this to get this where I want to? And then I can hit it and make it just like that. So that's what I'd be recommending, is choosing an intermediate target in front of the golf ball, a foot or two that's between the line where you want to start the ball at in the golf ball, and then line up your face to that. And then when you get up over the ball, you don't have to worry about the line anymore. You're already lined up. All you need to worry about is the amount that you're going to hit the ball, the speed in which you're going to hit the ball to get that ball rolling toward the hole. You be thinking about where you're going to land the golf ball on the green. All those feelings are really good to help you to get to where you want to go. So hopefully that answered your question. As far as feet position is concerned, lining up your feet. Some people like to line up a little bit more open. Ideally, that's what I like to do, because if your feet are really squared up, your feet are let's say you're squared up just like this, when I'm chipping through, it's a little bit harder to keep my body opening up, to keep my body, keep my belt buckle, keep my hands in front of my belt buckle as I'm coming through. I'm going to tend to do this, and that's going to cause me to flip, and it can also cause me to kind of close the face down because I have to roll my wrists over to get to the golf ball. So I like to set up a little bit open with my chip shots. I'm talking 10, 15 degrees open with the feet. And then when I hit the shot, I can just rotate open like that and hit the shot the way I want to, and keep my hands in front of the ball just like that, or keep my hands in front in front of my belt buckle. That's a good feeling you want to have, is that your hands are basically in front of your belt buckle, coming all the way through after impact. As long as you keep your body moving through there, you won't get that flip of the hands, and you'll be able to keep that club face square longer as you're hitting it. All right. James M says, if I take the swing review, I know it is up to the person on how. Okay, hold on. If I take the swing review, I know it's up to the person on how he does it in one day, or could it take longer, and what is the cost? So the return on a swing review is 24. It's less than 48 business hours, basically. So if you submit a swing review, we try to get them to you the next day. But sometimes, if you send one that's later in the day, it might be, 2 business days before you get it. But if you send one in the morning, odds are the next day you're going to get it at some point during that day. At least that's the way it is with me. Usually if you send it after 5 p.m. Eastern time, I won't be able to get to it the next day, but I'll be able to get it the next day after that, most likely in the morning to afternoon time. But yeah, usually it's 24 business hours. If you send something on a Friday, there's a good chance you may not get something back until Monday. If you send something on a Sunday, it's possible you may not get something back until a Tuesday, because a lot more swing reviews come in on the weekends. So just something to keep in mind. But yeah, that's basically the time frame. You send a video, we try to get it back to you as soon as we can. It's usually the next business day, but if you send it later in the day, it might be 2 business days. And then as far as the cost is concerned, my cost is $100 a month, and that's for unlimited swing reviews. That means you can send me as many videos as you want over the course of the month. So let's say, the first day you send me a video, and then the next day I send you a lesson back, and then later that day or the next day you go and you work on that, and then you send me videos again. Like you can send me 3 to 4 times depending on if you're able to go out and practice on the days that I send you videos. If you get right after it, you can really take advantage and get as many lessons as you can. So there's that. There's also, it's not just limited to full swing. If you're having trouble with chipping, pitching, putting, you can send videos of those as well. It really just depends on how much time you have to practice. If you have a lot of time to practice, then you can send a lot of videos and go through a lot and really get your money's worth. Whereas some, the average is people will send probably 3 or 4 videos in a month. 3 or 4 instances that they send videos. So that's basically once a week is the average, I would say, that people send in videos. But there's some people that really take advantage and send in videos 3 times a week, and there's some people that send in videos once a month. It's just whatever somebody's schedule is. But yeah, the cost is $100, and it doesn't matter whether you send 1 or if you send 10 in a month. And then that's a recurring charge, and you can cancel at any time. Robins are $125. It's the same kind of deal if you want to sign up for his. But yeah, so let me know if you have any more questions about the cost or what's all included with it. But it also gives you kind of unlimited Q&A with me. So you're going to have my email, and instead of having to come to the office hours at a specific time to ask questions, then you have my email, and you can just send me an email, and within a business day, I'm going to be giving you something back. And sometimes, if you ask a question, it may not be something that I can write out. I might actually send you a video of a tour player kind of explaining my whole answer or something like that. So I'm basically like your personal coach. The way that the swing reviews work is that's what's nice about it. That's why there's pros and cons to an in-person lesson versus unlimited swing review. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like the swing reviews are way better than in-person lessons. There's things about it that are better. So number one, the cost is a lot less. Basically what it would cost to get an in-person lesson with me for an hour is what it would cost to get a month of unlimited lessons. And basically on average, I spend about an hour on a student in the course of a month. So that's basically where that pricing comes in. And then because the videos, the reviews and stuff, they're roughly 5 to 10 minutes of reviews every time you send in videos. We don't sit there for an hour and talk about your swing and stuff like that. But anyway, so there's that for sure. And then having constant access to me, being able to shoot me over an email. If you do an in-person lesson, that's basically you get me for the hour right there. Whereas, with these, for the swing reviews, you get me for the whole month. You have my attention for the whole month. So I'm sending you, you're asking questions and sending me feedback, and I'm giving you stuff right back. So that's the other advantage to it. When you go and take an hour lesson, it's like, what happens in 2 weeks when you have an issue? Well, you got to go book another lesson for the instructor's time. So that's basically the way it works. That's kind of the advantage to the swing review program. And we can work on all kinds of different parts of your game as well. So Ed D says, thanks, Quentin. Very thorough answer. Confirms some things that I thought too. No problem. Glad I could help. I think he asked a question about, the question about difference between rotary swing and top speed golf. So yeah, glad I could help there. Colin T says, I have more slice with my driver and hardly any with my irons. How might I correct that? So this is one of those questions where instead of me kind of explaining how to fix your slice, I'm just going to put you in the direction of the slice section. So the reason why you might have a little bit of different things going on with your driver versus the iron is because when you hit a driver, it has less loft on it. So there's less backspin on the golf ball. When you have less backspin, it's going to be less likely, the axis is going to be less likely to tilt. So it's going to be more likely to, when you hit a driver, to tilt. That's why you can easily hit a fade or a slice with your driver, but it's a lot harder to do with a higher lofted wedge like your 60 degree. Your 60 degree is not going to have a lot of curvature on it. That's because it has so much backspin on it that it stabilizes that axis, and it takes a lot more for the axis to tilt and for the ball to curve. So you're just in general, you're going to get more, curvature on shots there with your driver. But I'd recommend going to our Never Slice Again section and working through the course there and working on that. If you go to the home, click the home icon and scroll down to the courses, you'll be able to see the courses, and you'll be able to see the Never Slice Again section. I would work through that. Work through it with your driver. Try to work through it with your driver, since that seems to be the biggest issue for you. Let me get a drink real quick. All right, so Dave S. says, just watch Clay's latest video post where he says to practice hitting thin and thick shots. I understand the concept of training, but can you demonstrate how and what is a thin and thick shot? So a thin shot would be where you're coming down and you're hitting it low on the club face. So you're kind of hitting, it's almost like a blading it a little bit. You're kind of hitting it with the leading edge more instead of higher on the face on the sweet spot. So that would be a thin shot. And then a thick shot would be where you're coming down and you're hitting the ground a little bit before the golf ball. So what this is called, it's called variability training. So you're training, if you train to the extremes, so the extremes of contact. So the extremes of contact of hitting a thin shot to hitting a thick shot, that's going to give you an overall better understanding and awareness of where the in-between is. And the other thing that it's going to do is it's going to help you to be able to adjust your feeling to get the desired result that you want. So let's say you go out someday and you're hitting everything thin. Everything is thin. Everything you hit is just thin shot. Well, you can adjust your feeling to hitting a thick shot because you learned how to do that. You know how to do that. And that will most likely give you a more solid strike. Now, you may actually hit it thick, and then at that point, you would just ease off of that feeling a little bit. But if you still hit it thin, then you would just exaggerate, try to hit it even more behind the golf ball as you're coming through. So highly recommend variability type training. I talked about ball striking masterclass earlier in the office hours, and that's basically all the training that we do in there is variability type training. So it's going to be working on your ground contact, your face contact, hitting the ball intentionally on different parts of the club face. A lot of people, they go out to the driving range and they try to hit the straight shot. So no curvature on the center of the face. And, they just try to do that every single time. Well, the reality is that's not really, what you can do out there. Nobody's really able to do that. So what you got to do is you got to vary it up so that it gives you a better awareness. You got to be able to hit different types of shots, hit draws and fades, hit a ball off the heel a little bit more to get it to fade a little bit more, or off the toe a little bit more to get it to draw a little bit more, and to play around with that. And overall, that's going to give you a better awareness and understanding of where the dead center of the face is. And it's also going to be able to give you the ability to adjust that when you need to, when your feeling gets a little bit off. Because your feel is constantly changing. It's not just you, it's tour players. Sometimes they wake up and everything's just a little bit off the toe when they're swinging. So keep that in mind if you're interested in our ball striking masterclass. But I haven't watched that latest video that you're thinking of, but hopefully that answered your question for the difference between thick and thin shots. All right, so Mark B says, Q, I'm hitting my irons better than ever. Awesome, that's great. Thanks. One question though. I'm starting to develop a habit of holding forward shaft lean at setup. Is that okay? So really, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's giving you good results, I think we always need to think about what's happening at impact. That's the thing that matters the most. So that little thing that you might do at setup, if it's helping you to get better impact, then yes, that's great. That's what you should be doing. If you're doing something in your setup just because you saw a tour player do it and it makes you hit the ball worse, that's not good. We don't want to be doing that. You want to be doing things that help you hit the golf ball better. So if you're setting up at address with forward shaft with the shaft leaning forward, and you're able to get speed and momentum and hit all those pieces of the Top Speed Golf system, and your impact is good, it's really, really helping you hit the golf ball in the center of the club face with forward shaft lean and really help you compress the ball, then who am I to tell you that is wrong? That's the idea. That's what you want to have happen. You want to be hitting the ball better. So as long as you're hitting your irons better than ever, and part of that is you feel is because you have a forward press at address, then absolutely stick with it. That's what you should be doing. That's kind of just to go into that a little bit more. That's kind of the beauty of the Top Speed Golf system, right? When we talk about the Top Speed Golf system, these are universal truths of the golf swing. These are things that every single good player does. If you look at tour players at address, you're going to see some that have the shaft, straight up and down. You're going to see some that have a forward press. You're going to see some that press their hands forward and then go. You're going to see some that have this big old waggle and then they go. You're going to see all kinds of things at address. But what do they all do? Every single one of those players that has a different thing that they're doing with the club at address, they're all doing the Top Speed Golf system. Those are universal truths. Those are the things that you really need to focus on as far as technique is concerned to be able to hit the ball better. The little things, everything, that's 95% of the issues right there. The remaining 5% is just tinkering with little things like that. Maybe a little bit of a forward press helps you hit the ball a little bit better than if you had the clubs, the shaft straight up and down at address. So it's all about what helps you personally hit the ball better. Everyone's got their own swing signature. That's why not every tour player's swing looks the exact same. They all do the pieces of the Top Speed Golf system, every single one of them. All right, so James M says, I'm hitting the driver straight down the center. That's awesome. But I'm not getting any distance. Should I keep doing the turn? Absolutely. So if you are struggling with distance, the number one thing that's going to help you to get more club head speed, because that's really where distance comes from, is club head speed. That's the biggest thing that translates to distance, is getting more club head speed. So working on your shoulder turn, maybe it's lag, maybe it's weight shift. Maybe your sequencing is a little bit off, which goes into weight shift as well. So all of those things are the things that help you to get the most speed, and those are the things that you should be working on. So at first, but the number one thing, there's nothing more that gives you more club head speed than getting a bigger shoulder turn. The only other thing is swinging hard. You can't expect to get distance if you're only swinging at 80% of your speed or 60. If you were swinging nice and easy and just trying to guide the ball down there, you're going to struggle with distance. You're just not going to hit it very far. You've got to swing hard. I know that seems trivial, but you got to swing hard. I will guarantee you, tour players, it may look like they're swinging nice and easy and they have this great smooth swing. They are not swinging nice and easy. They are swinging hard. It just looks like they're swinging easy because their sequencing is really good and everything is flowing and coming together at the right time. They're not swinging all arms and casting and things like that. They're sequencing correctly. But I guarantee you, they are going at that golf ball as hard as they can. Look at quotes from Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer. They don't talk about hitting it easy. They talk about hitting that ball as hard as they can. And that's what you got to do to hit it long. That's part of what you got to do, is you got to swing hard. You can't just go easy at it. So that's obviously that's within reason, right? You can't be swinging so far, so hard is that you just don't have any idea what's going to happen. But swing aggressively. You got to swing hard and aggressive in order to get that distance. So hopefully that helps. But those are the things that are going to help you get the speed the most, getting that big shoulder turn and swinging hard. So Ron D says, at what point in the swing does the right heel come off the ground? where would the arms be in the downswing in relationship to the right heel coming off the ground? Thanks. So it's different for different people, essentially. But essentially at impact, you want that heel. You're going to see with most players, it's going to be 1 to 3 inches coming off the ground. I'd say about halfway down, it's starting to come off the ground, because as your hips are starting, it's basically at the point where your hips, it really depends on your flexibility. But if you're able to turn your hips a lot, so the internal rotation, or actually this would be external rotation. So if you have great external rotation of your right leg here, your trail leg, meaning you can turn a lot this way without needing to pick up your heel, it may be a little bit later for you. But if you don't have very good external rotation with your trail leg, then you may need to pick it up off the ground a little bit sooner. So it really depends on your makeup. But in general, about halfway down the swing is when that heel should start to be coming off the ground. Basically, you just want to have it loose. You don't want to have it planted on the ground. You want to feel like it's loose. You want to feel like you can get your weight to your lead side and start pushing the hips open. And as your hips are opening up, that'll pull your heel off the ground. It's not a thing where you're coming down the downswing and, man, I need to get my heel off the ground. No, you need to have your hip pulling your heel off the ground. Just loosen that up to allow it to pull off there. So there's no concrete answer to that. You just need to make sure that your hips are pulling the heel off the ground. Loosen that up. Don't try to keep it planted on the ground as you're coming into impact. And that will help you to get through the ball a lot better. All right, so James M says, that was a nice chip right in the hole. Yeah, so I can make them from 3 or 4 feet. Pretty good. So Sharon T says, thanks so much. That was very clear. I will try that. No problem. Glad I get help. David P says, I'm 18 handicap. I'm just started lifting my hands at address, more like Mo Norman at address. I seem to be hitting better shots, but what is the downside of going this way? Seem to be getting a lot of questions like this today. Everyone, it's almost like everyone's devil's advocate. They start hitting better shots and they're like, well, what's wrong? There's got to be something wrong. There's got to be a downside to what I'm doing. There's no downside to what you're doing. If you're doing something and it's helping you hit better shots, keep doing that. There's no downside to it. The whole idea is to hit more solid golf shots. So I'm not really sure what you mean by lifting more hands at address, but essentially, if you get your hands up higher, you're going to be able to create more speed in the downswing. So the more space that you have to accelerate the club and the more time that you have to accelerate the club, the more club head speed that you can generate at impact, which is ultimately going to help you to hit the ball better and further. So definitely good for that. The only problem with that could arise from getting really, really vertical is that you may tend to come over the top. So I just look at your swing on camera, look at those pieces of the Top Speed Golf system where you're nailing those pieces and make sure that you're doing that, and you're gonna be in good shape if you're doing that. If you're bringing the hands a little bit higher, there's all kinds of this on tour. There's Bubba Watson that's up here, and there's Matt Kuchar that's over here. There's pros and cons to having it flatter to more vertical. I would say for speed, it's just easier to have your hands more vertical. So that's probably what you're doing. But yeah, I think the moral of the story here is if you make a little bit of a change and it leads to better golf shots, don't think, oh, there's got to be something wrong here. I shouldn't be hitting good golf shots. Continue with it. There's no reason that you're obviously doing something that's helping you get better golf shot. There's no downside to it. There's just the upside of you hitting good golf shots. So hopefully that makes sense. I understand that side of it, that there's got to be something wrong here. I shouldn't be hitting good golf shots, but sometimes that's just the way it is. You did something to improve your golf game, so stick with it and keep going through it. Thanks. James M says, thanks, Q. No problem. Glad I could help. David P, looks like this is the last question on here, so I will we'll finish up after this one. But David P says, coming back, I meant more like a single plane at address, not in the backswing. Again, there's no so he's talking about bringing the club back on basically the same plane as you're bringing it down on. Again, there's pros and cons to it. So essentially, The pro of this is that it's theoretically you can be more consistent because you don't have to drop the hands down. Everything's just staying all on one plane here. You're going back and you're going through. The downside to this is that you're going to have a hard time getting speed. So if you struggle with distance, then I wouldn't necessarily recommend swinging on a one plane because it's going to be hard to get speed from this kind of position right here, where you're very your arm is more across your shoulders here. The other thing is that when you swing flatter, you usually have to bend over more, and that's usually not great for older people that have bad backs because it puts a little bit more strain on the back. So usually for older people, maybe don't have a ton of strength in the back, or it's a little bit of a sore back, especially lower back. It's a little bit better to be more vertical and to let the arm kind of drop and really swing the club through, as opposed to being flatter and having to be more steeper with the shoulders and bend over more. So it really just depends on what you're into. But Mo Norman, excellent. People say he's the best ball striker of all time. I don't really know about that, but I know that he was not a long hitter. He did not. He wouldn't be. He probably wouldn't make it in today's tour because he's probably just not long enough in general. Whereas guys like Jack Nicklaus, Snead, Byron Nelson, those guys, those were Arnold Palmer, long hitters. They could hit the ball a mile, and they would probably still. I mean, they didn't have machines back then that measure clubhead speed. But I mean, later in Jack Nicklaus's career, he got on one of those, and I don't know how old he was. He was 40 something, and he was swinging 120 miles an hour at 40 some years old. So that's like what Phil Mickelson is doing right now, Tiger Woods is doing right now, and he was doing that back at that time. So just really ripping the ball out there. So it's a speed game. It's definitely way easier to play golf when you're swinging harder and getting more distance. So I recommend more of a more vertical swing so you have more time and space to accelerate the club. It's also a little bit easier on the body, I think. But if a flatter plane swing works for you, that gives you the best results, and you get the distance that you want on it, who am I to tell you that you can't play that way? But if you're someone who's wanting to get more distance, that I'd recommend maybe getting a little bit more vertical. The main thing is getting a big shoulder turn. So if you can still swing flat and you get a bigger shoulder turn, getting your hands higher is only going to do so much for you. It's more about getting that big shoulder turn in impact. But I think it's a little bit easier on the body to be a little bit more vertical because you don't have to use your back as much. It puts a little less strain on the back, I believe. So if you have any more questions, we got 2 more minutes here. If you have another question, I'll go ahead and stay on here. If not, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I'll give you 1 more minute to ask a question, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up if nobody's got any more questions. And again, today I'll try to get it. I'll get it archived tonight. I probably won't have time to get it archived right now, although I did hear some thunder while we were on here, so I might actually end up canceling my tee time. We'll see. But if not, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here, and we'll see y'all tomorrow morning and 9 a.m. in the morning. Ed D said, can you talk about resistance in the swing? Can you give me a little, I'm not sure what you mean by resistance. So, I mean, if you're talking about range of motion, I mean, there's definitely, you can only turn your body so far. So when you're turning, there's going to be resistance there because you can only turn your body, and everybody's a little bit different. There are things that you can do in your backswing or in your setup, actually, and in your backswing to help you get a little bit more. So I'll go into this real quick. So as far as setting up, all right, so resisting the turn of the upper body with the lower body. So there's been some teaching in the past that talked about resisting your hip turn. I think I just broke my pen. Resisting your hip turn, that is awful teaching. I can't even believe that kind of stuff was going on. People talk about X factor. Well, you can only get so much of a separation from your hips and your shoulders. So a lot of that has to come from the hips initially. So if you don't turn your hips, it's really going to be hard to. So if I keep my hips dead square, so I'm going to try to keep my hips dead square, and I'm just going to turn my shoulders. Well, I can only turn my shoulders maybe about 45 degrees, probably a little bit more than that because I'm retracting and protracting my shoulders. But if I don't turn my hips, now if I turn my hips, now look how much more I can turn my shoulders. So if I look at the difference between this and this, that's a huge difference. So if you, and the thing is, the X factor, they talked about, ringing the sponge, you're going to get that whether you're like this or you're like this. I'm still getting that change, that difference between my hips and my shoulder. The X factor is still there in this position than it is in this position where I don't have my hips turned. The X factor is still there. It's just now I have this huge range of motion that I can accelerate and get into the golf ball. You're not going to see any tour players who aren't turning their hips, at least not any that are having a big turn anyway. There are some that don't turn their hips very much, but all those players, they don't have a really big shoulder turn, and they're not long hitters. So average hip turn on tour is about 49 degrees. Average shoulder turn on tour is 118 degrees. Some of that, most of that's coming from the upper spine, kind of the rib cage turning in relationship, and then some of it's coming from the protraction and retraction of the shoulders. But you got to get the resistance is going to be there. I would just recommend getting that full hip turn, especially if you're struggling with distance. If you're struggling with distance, trying to resist the hip turn is going to make it really difficult for you to get much distance because you're not going to be able to get much of a shoulder turn. If you resist, you're only going to be able to get like that. At least I can. If I try to keep my hips still here and get a big shoulder turn, I'm only rotating my hips maybe 10, 15 degrees here, and look how much I'm getting. Now I'm going to let my hips go. Now look where I'm at. I'm getting a 100-degree shoulder turn, and my club is a lot longer. And now I have all that space and time to accelerate and get to the golf ball and get speed. Yeah, I highly recommend that for you to let those hips free up and turn for sure. So one more here. James S. says, when will you have the ball striking masterclass? That's going to be next week. Be on the lookout. We're going to start the email campaign at the beginning of next week, Monday. So you're going to kind of get some teaser emails, just kind of talking about a little story, basically, to kind of help you understand what the ball striking masterclass is all about. A story about Josh's golf game. Excuse me. And then after that, you're going to have on Thursday, I believe, is when signups are going to be opening up. And I believe you'll have until Sunday to sign up, unless it gets full, because we only can take so many people. I think we're taking 150 or 200, something like that. So we'll open it up to that many people. Once it's full, then it's full, and we won't open it up again for another month or two. So keep that in mind if you want to sign up. You'll only have a chance to sign up this time. Otherwise, you'll have to wait another month or two to sign up, just because there's only so many students that I can take in there. So thanks everybody for joining me. I got to get going, and I'll talk to you next time.